Howdy YouTube, TJ here, and today we're bringing you guys another Members First deck profile. This week you guys decided that you wanted Three Musketeers to be the profile that you wanted. So shout out to the members that voted for this and everything. We're very excited to bring it to you. We're going to be bringing you Arby's list. Arby, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, it's me, Arby. Resident purple player here. I probably should not be playing these decks. These decks are way too complicated. They require too much power.
You're fine. Before we jump into the list, if you are seeing this on Monday, that means you are a member, and so I want to thank you guys so much for supporting us and supporting the channel. It's awesome to have you guys around. We have so much other stuff that we're working on.
Really appreciate it.
Yes, we have just a few other things that are going to be coming out as well. There'll be announcements about what's going on for members and everything over the course of this week. It might actually even go up before this video goes up. We'll see. It depends on when I do the post. I'm still deciding how I want to do it, but there's going to be stuff coming out for you guys. And aside from that, though, if you're seeing this on Wednesday, that means that you guys are just watching the video. You're a regular old Joe, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to become a member and you want to hang out with us and get some of those premium perks and picking what deck profiles we do every week, along with some of the other perks that we're going to be rolling out, I implore you to do so. It would be awesome to have you join us on this ride. And aside from that, if don't forget to like and subscribe. It always helps us. We always appreciate it. And I think that'll about do it for me yapping. I'm gonna go ahead and just toss it to Arby, and you just go ahead and go over the list, Brother Bear.
Okay. So the list is pretty basic. Three Musketeers in its current iteration does not have a whole lot of room for change or like variance. The deck kind of has cards that it needs to work. So I just started out with a really basic, like a basic, what do you call it?
Like a build.
Yeah, a basic build. I was gonna say base.
I mean, that still works.
Yeah. With I guess a generic base, like, you know,
Sure.
it has everything that, you know, like comes in EX-07 pretty much. Like there's maybe one or two cards that you need from other sets. So if you just want to buy EX-7, it's your first booster box, like you can build this deck almost out of the box. In the way that I played it, but I'll go over some changes that I want to make to the deck after we go over everything. So we're gonna start off with the Digitama, your eggs, Kapurimon. I'm running it as a 4 of. You always want... your deck works off of having options on your level 6s, so it's really a no-brainer here. And you want to see this card consistently. Next up for level 3s, we'll start with Toyagumon, the Black Toyagumon from this set. I kind of wanted to run more of a black base for a card you guys will see later, but it does help. You know, trashing one card to draw 2 is really nice. Plus you get reboot, which helps a lot. And then for the next rookie, we have Sparrowmon. The start of the main phase, to slide one of your option cards underneath your Digimon to draw an extra card. That really helps. I think this card can definitely... It gets you an extra memory to possibly go into your level 6, which is something you pretty much always want to do. But I think this card can be cut, because with Digimon Emperor and with like it not being an on play to do this, it only happens at start of main. You might sometimes just want to Evo in the back.
Yeah.
So you can definitely bring this card down to 2, but I ran it at a 4 of today. The next card we'll talk about is the other Toyagumon, the Red Toyagumon. It's honestly pretty good for the deck. You know, you get to add an option and a Three Musketeer, a card with Three Musketeer and trade, so it pretty much hits everything in this deck outside of the one of the level 7 that I chose to include in this deck. Plus it gives you plus 2 KDP, which I found pretty helpful, honestly. In certain matches I played, there's a lot of decks that run Digimon with huge DP numbers, so a little extra bit that helped me get over 12 was very useful. And then moving on, we're gonna start with level 4s. I chose to include the BT6 Deputymon. And the main reason for that is it evolves over Toyagumon and back. You can use it in an emergency. You can use it to search for one of your Three Musketeers cards. It unfortunately doesn't grab an option like it used to with the old deck. But what I ended up using it for in a lot of my games today was to go into a level 6 from 4, which is very helpful. Sometimes your opponent, like with the deck not really having a tamer that it can run, sometimes you just want to go straight from 4 to 6, and that's really, really useful. I kind of want to build the deck to have more of a black base, just to use this at 4, just because warping is a broken mechanic in the game. Like anything that lets you skip steps, even if it's from more memory, I think is just incredibly useful.
Well, and with the inheritable too from Kapuri and how some of the level 6s work, you can very easily like make that a 5 cost Evo and stuff too. Yeah. So like turn 2, you can look at a pretty cheap level 6. You also have one of the options we'll talk about later, Hurricane Screw Shot, which when you crash it gets you a memory. So you can do this for a lot less than 6 a lot of the time. Next up we have 4 of Tankmon. Tankmon, it's just another card with Three Musketeers in text. Lets you evo over any of your rookies, which is really nice, and lets you de-digivolve 1, which has mattered in a lot of matchups. And then it lets you fix the top 3 cards of your deck, which definitely came in handy for some of my matches today. On top of that, it also gives you reboot, which like my version of the deck was more aggressive today, so that reboot did help. Next up we have Deputymon. This Deputymon is okay. The plus 2k inheritable is really nice. The fact that it can be treated as a 3 Musketeer is also nice. I just don't think playing it doesn't do anything. Like the Tankmon lets you de-digivolve 1 as an on-play. So you can, if your opponent is running aces, like you can use the Tankmon to get rid of their ace and then go up into your 6, and that helps. But like this card, its text really doesn't do anything. Like the when digivolving to trash a source, you don't really want to trash a source when it's just at level 4. Sometimes you do, like there's some funky things you can do. It's just I didn't find it that useful in a lot of my matchups today. So I think this card can definitely be cut. Like the deck really needs stronger level 4s, because both level 4s are fine. They don't do anything like broken. And for me, like cards that do something broken at every level is really nice. But we'll move on. We'll move on to level 5's Gigadramon. Is gonna be the first one we're going over. I think this card is really nice. You can add, it lets you add something to sources, which is always huge. It has collision as its inheritable, and you get to pop a Tamer or Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less if you added something to the sources off its play. Like you have to set it up a little bit sometimes, but with the Tankmon,
you can definitely do that pretty easily. And you run 12 options, so
Okay.
even though it's a little gotcha to do it, that's fine. But and then we'll move on to the Megadramon as our other level 5. Megadramon lets you add an option from hand or trash as bottom evolution card to up something that's 6k or less. It's a solid effect. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it lets you pop memory blockers, which is really the only type of like floodgate that the deck worries about, just because you always need memory. And then the piercing does help. It helped with my version just because I was more aggressive with this list, and I think that that ended up like costing me. I definitely think that the deck might want to play a little more defensive until it gets to the late game. But yeah, moving on. For the first level 6, we have Gundramon. This thing is probably your star card. Gundramon went from the worst Three Musketeer to the best in this. On play when Digivolving, if you fix your, you know, it lets you dig 6, which is a lot. You typically, with your ratios, with the way I ran the deck, you'll typically find one of your options in that pile of 6, and then you can use it, add it as a source to Gundramon, and then you can return them to the top or bottom. So if the rest of the cards are useless and you want to draw into more stuff, then you can bottom those. But you can also add them to the top if you think that they'll help you.
Yeah, it's nice that you're able to kind of affect your consistency by changing how you put them back to the top and bottom of the deck.
Yeah, super nice. And then its all turns effect is whenever one of your Three Musketeers Digimon would leave the battle area by anything other than one of your effects. So it doesn't matter if it's battle, if it's like, you know, one of their options. You can trash a card underneath Gundra to negate that. And that's huge. It's come in clutch, like plenty of times. Sometimes people have to use aces in order to attempt to get rid of Gundra. And depending on which options you're able to slide underneath, you can like either de-digivolve that ace or like gain yourself a memory to try and pass over the turn, and Gundra will stay on board. And then you have the ability to possibly use more Digimon or options to counter what your opponent's trying to do. I ran it at 3. Oh, sorry, go ahead, TJ.
It's also not once per turn, too. Which is huge.
Anytime. Also, all your options, I believe, allow you to just place under one of your Three Musketeer Digimon. So when you're evoing or playing your other Three Musketeers, you can just put the options all underneath Gundramon, repeatedly. I would run it as a 4 of after today, just because like it needs to stay on the field. It does die to DP, but you know what are you gonna do? It can't be invincible, right? And then the next one we'll talk about is Magnakid. So I ran 4 of Magnakid. It lets you do like a decent amount. It only lets you play your options from hand, but the end of turn to trash an option card from the sources to give Sec +1 and attack is huge. It lets you like get a lot more aggression than I think your opponents typically expect out of this deck. And if you have the Gundra Magnakid combo on field, like, you know, Gundra will protect this card pretty handily. You can also use the Magna Kid. I think it's just one of your Three Musketeers Digimon, too. So you can attack with Beelstar if you have that, or Gundra if you have that. Super useful. And then, but last but not least, Beelstar Ace is our other level 6. I ran it at 2. You just can't run this at 4. I think even 3 is a little too much. It's a really nice card, but your 5s not having protections in this meta means they're just gonna go. Like there's nothing.
There's so much removal.
There's so much removal in Digimon that like a level 5 just sitting out there naked isn't gonna live. Like you can't expect your opponents. Like it's nice to have, but it's just unrealistic to think that you're gonna have something survive. To actually do an ace play with. But it is nice at a play cost of 6. Lets you use return one of your Three Musketeers options from trash to hand, and then use one of your options. Basically what the old Beelstar did, but for 6 instead of like typically 0 memory. And then it's got a good when attacking as well. Being able to trash an option card from its sources to use a Three Musketeer option card from hand is really nice when you are able to do something like that. It lets you basically, cycle your cards and get a lot of value from just one. It's just the fact that it's an ace. Like I'd almost prefer if this wasn't an ace card. Just because if it dies, you lose the memory, and that really sucks. Always solid. Next up, you have Beelstar X Antibody. This card is pretty good, but it's not something like. It's not something that you're gonna run I wouldn't run it more than the Gundra or the Magna, because I think the most like it doesn't have as like many effects as the other ones. But when Digivolving and when attacking to trash 2 cards, like you need a lot of setup for this effect to be useful. And then there's a lot of Digimon with protections too. Especially protection against Digimon, so it's not as useful, but it is a good effect to just trash the top card of your security. I was using this more of as a finisher. My other cards, so running it at 2, I think is fine. But it's definitely like, I feel like the worst out of the level 6s. But it's a solid, like I said, a solid finisher. Moving on, I was talking about Gallant. My only level 7 in this deck is Gallant Crimson Mode Ace. Because I was running Magna Kid. And it has come up. It came up twice. As a solid option. It's basically an option itself. An 8 cost option that you can play and either take like a 5 memory hit at a later turn to just wipe the board, which is huge. Anything that lets you board wipe matters a lot for this deck, because this deck is, my version of the deck was about like a mix of control and aggression. And the fact that like you're definitely trashing a lot of your cards. On top of that, you're using removal to get rid of your opponents. So in the late game, once both players have kind of exhausted, their decks, like this thing just goes in for the win.
Gotcha.
And it definitely did come up as that like win condition in one of my games today. So I think it's really solid, but you could probably play other level 7s over it. The deck might not even need a level 7. Like the 6s are all pretty good, but it was a good finisher. And then finally, we got the options. So we'll go over the first one. Their Blitz. The main effect is just to delete your opponent's lowest level Digimon, which with a lot of the things you can do in this deck, this ends up deleting a lot of boss monsters. Just because your level 5s typically tend to get rid of smaller stuff on board, and then you can use this option, tuck it under something, and then when you trash it, it de-digivolves one of your opponent's Digimon, which is in a meta where aces are huge, and there's things like Tyrant that are immune to Digimon effects. The fact that this comes from an option source is pretty big.
Yeah.
So next up we have Hurricane Screwshot. The purple option. This card I think is honestly it's not bad, but it's
it's the worst of the three.
It's the worst of the three, and none of the three are like particularly broken. They're all like
Very
valid.
fair.
Yeah, they're very, very fair cards. It deletes a 4, 5, and 3, 4, and a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Some decks that matters against, but like typically that's not gonna like the fact that it doesn't target a 6 in there at all is not good. This format is like about 6s a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But the ability to, when it's trashed from sources by an effect to gain a memory, that I think is really good. It lets you extend a lot of your plays. It's just, like I said, it's not something you're just gonna play from hand.
Yeah.
All the time. And then, last but not least, we have Chaos Triangular, which this card just for every you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 9,000 DP or less, and then for every differently named Musketeer, you can add 3,000 to that total. It's just a solid removal. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible. And then the ability to give your Digimon +3 KDP, which was what I was using it for with Magnakid, was a big thing. Getting to thresholds of 17 or more, which is basically every level 7. I don't think there's a level 7 above 16, right?
I think there's the X-07 superior mode. I think is 17. I think
the 17. Okay,
but
yeah, it lets you. Yeah, it lets you get over most of the Digimon that you'll see in security with Magnakid, which is huge. So that's what I was using it here for. There's there's not much that 17k isn't gonna
that's bigger than most stuff you're gonna run into, but for sure.
Yeah, anyway, that's the deck. I hope that explanation was useful for you guys. There are a lot of changes I would definitely make to the deck going forward. Running the Deputymon at a 2-2 split, seeing which one did better. I really didn't use a whole lot of the EX-07 Deputy. Just because you really don't want to just trash a source. You want to save that source's you want to save your sources underneath your Digimon for Gundra.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can't get it back is easy. There's nothing that slides them back in easily.
Right. Yeah.
At
least it's a Yume, but yeah, it's not. Yeah. You never want to do it either.
We could definitely use a better level 4. I think Tankmon is fine. The Deputy to Warp again, I think is better. So if there's a way to gear this deck more towards the black base, like TJ and I are going to be looking at black base options. Right before this, I was looking at videos, and I think Mr. J was running some sort of black base. I forget. Okay. Yeah, I forget what it was.
Shout out to Mr. J, by the way.
Yeah,
he's an awesome
shout out to Mr. J. He is an awesome creator. But yeah, I need to figure something out here.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking us through the list, buddy boy.
Yeah.
Did so I know you have changes you're already planning to make and everything that that you're you're going through. Off of what you've tested so far, what do
Yeah.
you feel like are good matchups and bad matchups? You don't have to be super specific, but like just in general, like maybe like in terms of deck types, or unless there are specific decks you think that you have a really good matchup against.
Decks that you have a good matchup against. So since you're not, I think that the deck has good matchups against things that want to leave things on field. It has a better matchup against Tyrant than a lot of other decks, just because you can use the Der Blitz trash effect to de-digivolve their Tyrant. Um,
Sorry.
since it's an option effect,
Mhm.
and then possibly swing over it or threaten something. Decks that it has a bad matchup against. Anything with protections against also Magna.
Yeah, like,
Magna's really, yeah.
like full protections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Magna X, just being immune to everything, is really, really hard. Like, it's the fact that you're frequently going to be swinging for like either a similar DP or less, and then like you can't threaten that card really unless you have security bombs, and nothing de-digivolves like in security as a card, so that's really rough. Like the fact that if the options had like activate this card's main effect as their security effect, but they're missing that key, like then place this card as the bottom Digivolution card of one of your Three
Yeah.
Musketeers, is really, really rough. Like the deck needed something unbalanced to
It
compete.
needed, it needs something a little bit unfair.
Yeah, it's too fair right now with what it's got going. But yeah, stuff like that. Zafagamon, I think, is also a really rough matchup, just because again that it just has protections, right?
It can, yeah, but usually only against opponents' Digimon effects. So options it
Yeah.
doesn't help too much with. I think the starter deck can be.
Yeah.
I can double check real quick. No, it's only Digimon effects.
Okay.
So
yeah,
the
only
options
Digimon-
get around it. It's the same thing with like where I mentioned like Tyrant probably doesn't have the greatest matchup into you because they're already kind of a slower deck, and if you're able to just
Yeah.
play options and pop them.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Then I think Zafaga, it actually has like a decent chance against, just because
Yeah.
you're using options to clear stuff anyway.
Yeah.
You're not really using your Digimon to actually clear.
Yeah.
It does have. I think it also does pretty well against like the ancient Guru matchup. Just because they can't really remove. There's no way to remove Gundra, and then they have to swing through the Gundra.
Unless they have the Koji to keep
And
them
then
from being
yeah.
blocked, but
Yeah, that's true. The
But
Koji useful. But
even
you're
then, you still like
Yeah.
you have means of like stealing turn and punishing, and you have so many security bombs that even if they bounce a card to your hand, it doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah. They usually don't. Like, there's definitely setup against it. Yeah, I think Magna X is really bad against it, or really bad as a matchup for the deck. I was struggling with Omni Ace, and it does struggle against Imperial, because anything that says when this card would be deleted,
Yeah.
they get a free evolution.
Because all your removals
Imperial,
deletion.
yeah, Imperial evolves into Paladin mode, and then it trashes all your sources. And then you're just like, oh, okay, well, that kind of sucks. Unless you have a Der Blitz in there to counter it, it's not.
I know I'm
No,
dying.
you're good.
Oh, keep going.
Oh no. Yeah, when effects trashes cards from you, unless you have a Der Blitz in there to counter it, like it's just a very bad matchup. The fact that like you're not getting your deletion hurts you a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty, well, I think that'll do it. Thank you, Chief, for giving us the extensive lookout for everything and kind of running through everything with it.
Oh yeah.
I know
Yeah.
you did pretty well with it today at locals too, and I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I
what
think
changes you
I
make.
got third.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely the big changes I would make. Figure out a way to make this black base.
Yeah.
Deputy Mon to 4, just to warp, and then Gundra to 4, and probably Magna Kid down to 2 or 3. Because it's really useful for aggression. Like the fact that you're evoing into it at end of turn to give yourself sec +1, is huge. Like that's like end of turn. I love end of turn aggression.
Yeah.
As like a hunter's player. So yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, that'll be it for us. Again, if you've watched this video this far in and you haven't already liked it or subscribed to the channel, please do so. We'd love to have you along for our ride, and think about becoming a member so you can be in on the ground floor with these members' first deck profiles and help pick out what we're going to be doing next. And that'll about do it. We'll go ahead and we'll catch you on that flippy flip. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.